Can you set the table for us?
That's right. I mean, the Odd Couple touched on it briefly yesterday, but as you mentioned, Rob Parker, Major League Baseball, Ron Manfred dropped a surprising hammer or lifted a hammer, however we want to look at it, on Pete Rose because his lifetime ban has officially been lifted. Of course, there are others, but the biggest name is Pete Rose. According to Rob Manfred, the decision was made because he decided that a lifetime ban should only apply when someone is alive. And now that Pete Rose is no longer with us, he has been reinstated by Major League Baseball, and as a result will be eligible for the Pro Baseball Hall of Fame in 2028.
Shoeless Joe Jackson, you know what year he died?
No, I don't know the year that he died.
1951. Now, all of a sudden, did you get my point?
Yeah.
If he was been dead for a long time, they want to say, hey, we should take him off the list. He's obviously not dead, so he shouldn't be. Okay. But this was about Pete Rose, and to make it so that you weren't being special to him, you threw in other people who have long passed. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm just going to say this. I'm not buying into baseball's premise that you should lift a lifetime ban because somebody died. If Pete Rose wasn't fit to be in the Hall of Fame when he's alive, he shouldn't fit to be in the Hall of Fame when he's dead. It's just that simple. And all the people, would you guys stop? He was a great player. We all know he was a great player. That's not even a question. Charlie Hustle, the hit king. He was on the Big Red Machine, the last National League team to win back-to-back championships. I could go on and on and on about his accomplishments. He broke the cardinal rule of baseball, which still applies, even with legalized gambling around. As a player, you cannot bet on baseball. People go, well, gambling now. No, a player cannot. Here's the other thing. Well, he was a manager, and that shouldn't count on him because he's a player. Guess what? Pete Rose was a player manager. He gambled when he was a player manager. Stop it. He was a player and a manager. And here's the other thing. You're a gambler. So you're going to sit here and tell me all these people, well, Pete Rose never bet for the Reds to lose. He never bet against the Reds. Really? Kelvin, you're Pete Rose. And your starter's been terrible his last 2-3 starts. Mm-hmm. You know he don't have it. I'm going to go like, oh, well, I can't. This is the obvious bet. This guy's going to get lit up, but I'm not going to bet it. Really? That's not what gamblers do. They go after sure things. If you know this guy is terrible, the idea that throughout all of this, Pete jeopardizing the integrity of the game, jeopardizing his Hall of Fame status, you know this because you've been in a big league clubhouse. Mm-hmm. The biggest sign on the wall talks about what? Gambling.
Yeah.
And what will happen to you if you're caught gambling on the game? Stop trying to rewrite history or change things when people die. If somebody was a bad person when they were alive, guess what? They're a bad person when they die. You can still appreciate his talent. The Hall of Fame should be for extraordinary people who did extraordinary things in the sport and who followed the rules. That's really what it should be. Pete Rose is to blame for why he's in the situation that he was in while he was alive because he refused to come clean. Does this country not embrace comeback stories? Mm-hmm. Pete, we caught you. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm going to Gamblers Anonymous. I'm going to talk to kids and college kids about the dangers of gambling. Whatever. I'll do whatever we need to do. I'll take my suspension, get myself together, and I won't bet on baseball anymore. He couldn't do it. That's why we're here. But for baseball to even open up this box, what is a lifetime ban if you lift it? It doesn't even make sense. Like it should never be lifted. And I know he's dead, but he should not even have that opportunity for them to put it on the table for people to do the wrong thing, which I believe could happen.
There's so much. I mean, you touched on all the right things. I think that what makes this interesting for me, I went to they did a great thing on The Athletic, and they interviewed a bunch of older players, guys who were, Hall of Famers from different eras, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, so on and so forth, and got their opinion. And you would think that maybe because they know, all of them said, I played against him, or I was a teammate, or I was his former manager. And all of them said, if we're going based off just the merit of your skill, that's not a question. But I was actually shocked, Rob, how many of them were like, nah, because of the integrity game. And watch this. One of them went on to talk about how many of his own teammates were upset with him. Present day.
Right. Johnny Bench.
Brock, what am I missing? Brock, I'll find it in a second.
Okay.
But, they were saying that they went and talked to them separately. Like, and they were like, man, he lied to me.
Right. He lied for 14 years.
He lied to me. We were ready to have his back. He didn't do it. And then we were still trying to have his back. He never showed any contrition. He never showed that he cared. He never showed that he was willing to, make wrong for his rights.
Was it Joe Morgan? Was that?
Joe Morgan was one. It was a handful of his own teammates.
Okay.
I'll find it again here. But who were saying, even you would think they would be the ones championing him, and they were upset. And that's part of this to me. That's the big part, is that sometimes in life, there's a moment when someone is willing to bend the rule or change the rule or say we're going to make an exception. And for him to go on for decades and not apologize, say I didn't do it, then say I did it, but only because I want to sell a book, but then only go on because I want to sign. They talk about it in this article. Writing on baseballs, what he could do is autograph. I bet on baseball.
Right. He for money.
For money. I bet on baseball, and you're making a mockery of this. So on the one end, if you wanted to, like, man, you can't tell the story of baseball without him. He's so good. Well, he's forcing their hands, because even if they wanted to say, and somebody also in there talks about how they had a sit down with baseball, the commissioner at the time. They said, look, and there was a moment where they were saying, we're not going to say we're going to let you in, but just work with us, kind of a thing. He just couldn't do it.
Do you think, and this is what people don't get, you think baseball doesn't want its all-time hit leader, Charlie Hustle? He was a great player
on a great team too.
One of the greatest teams in baseball history.
And
Stop it!
Yeah.
They don't win by not having Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. Now Pete Rose, all of his accomplishments are in the Hall of Fame. It's not like he's whitewashed 100%. Out of there, but the sport doesn't gain anything by not having Pete Rose in it. Are you kidding?
That's what makes this bad, is that it's twofold. The league is trying, and I almost feel like they're being petty. I said this yesterday when it broke. I said, I feel like they're being petty in that he just died a handful of 2-3 months ago, whatever it was, and they immediately do this. To me, that was a slap in the face of, like, we literally waited till you died. Shoeless Joe Jackson, 50, 60, 70, 80 years
go by.
1951. The minute you died, Pete Rose, that was, to me, a slap in the face. Bam. We're going to do this. We just waited until you died to make this happen, because we could have tried to do it last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Nope. We're going to wait till you die. The minute you're dead, let's make this happen. So to me, that was a slap in the face to him, saying, we tried. You had opportunities to make it right, make good. You didn't. And so to me, I think you're just better off letting it move on, because there's just, and again, reading this article, so many former players are torn. So many former managers are torn. They're like, man, the guy, the player, it's not even a question. He was the best I've ever played.
Nobody. If it's just on your playing ability.
Right. But they're like, dude, this is the game I love. This is the game I played, and you hurt the integrity. This is other guy saying, man, I don't want a guy who never came out and was forthright and was contrite and tried to show contrition and change the game. And someone else said they had an opportunity to, he could have joined in. I guess the biggest thing that really hurt him, they were saying, was that he didn't get to participate in the game, because they were one of the smartest players they've ever seen, and he didn't get to help grow the game with the young players, where you see other guys get to be still part of the game. So even if I'm not in the Hall of Fame, I was kicked out of the sport as a whole. And they were saying that hurt him maybe more, because maybe, okay, fine, you already know I'm a Hall of Famer, so maybe I'm not officially on the list, but that I couldn't participate. I couldn't be a part of a team. I couldn't teach guys. I couldn't come,
right,
just
to
that
Red
hurt
training
him.
camp and all that stuff.
Exactly. And I just think it's just a terrible situation that there's so many learning lessons for all of us. And our last point I'll make, and I keep bringing this up, is because I look at a guy like Mike Vick, who did all the right things, went, learned about himself. What's up with me? Why did I think this was okay? I know culturally certain places do it, but it's not all right. What is it about me that, what do I need to learn? Worked with Peter, and by all accounts has been just an amazing guy, an amazing figure, and has grown as a human being. Has been contrite, shown contrition. And I think that's an example of what could have been if Pete Rose exercised his demons. And now here we are where, to me, they slapped him in the face and said, he's dead? All right, bam, now you're eligible.
It's a mockery of the whole thing to me.
It is.
It really is, because he was unfit alive, and now you're saying
not
that
100 years later where you
Right.
had some reflection and things changed, ideology changed. The minute he died, Rob, what changed? What happened in 6 months?
Baseball invited Pete Rose, which with a lifetime ban wasn't supposed to happen, to the 2015 All-Star game in Cincinnati. They were doing that year
Yep.
the Mount Rushmore of every
each team, yeah.
And they couldn't do the Reds without Pete Rose. Like they even said, like, there's no way we could present the 4 greatest players of the Cincinnati Reds
and not
bring Pete. And since Pete is from Cincinnati, he's a Cincinnati born and bred.
It's a great story.
Absolutely.
It's a great story.
Great story. You grew up in Cincinnati and you become the greatest player ever played.
That you know me. The documentary on him was great. Came out a couple years back. Great.
Absolutely. But in this case, I think baseball just it didn't need to do this. I don't know what the rush was. And then to throw away and Shoeless Joe and other people to try to make it like,
hey, anybody else with some gambling? Murphy?
Anybody else who's been dead for 70 years?
Yeah. I didn't like it.
We'll
I didn't
take
like
them
the
off the list,
speed of
too.
it. And now it really starts to be a conversation of, well, what are you going to do with, like, steroid guys? Is it the minute they're dead? Is there some type of, you're starting to soften up your stance a little bit now? What does this mean for those who are indicted with steroids, or whether that we literally know or we kind of the cloud hangs around them?
As you know, I have a vote. And if he's eligible,
You do have a vote?
I do have a vote.
Well, yeah, what are you going to do?
I'm not voting for him, but we want to hear from you. What would you do if you had a vote? Should Pete Rose be voted into the Hall of Fame? Should the writers vote him in? Would you vote him in if you had a vote?
no.
We'll continue that conversation next with you. Jump in if you want. Susan in Florida, you're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Susan?
Yes, I think he should never be admitted into the Hall of Fame, ever. He insulted the name of baseball. I don't know why they're saying he was a threat. He was an insult to the game. And he insulted the names of Hank Aaron, Jackie Robinson, and Lou Gehrig.
I hear you, Susan.
A lot of people feel the same way. Even players who played with him. I told you I was reading this athletic piece, and they were just, you would think all the old players would be in favor of him, and that was not the case.
Yep. Thank you, Susan. Appreciate it. Sean in Sacramento, you're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio.
Yo, my uncle from another mother, cousin Kelvin, and my brother's behind the board. Look, man, I understand his off-the-field antics and his lack of remorse really don't resonate with folks, man. They feel like they need to hold that against him. But the man is past. Like, it's a lifetime ban. He is past. The only people they're punishing at this point are the people of the great city of Cincinnati and the Pete Rose family, because they're the only ones that really get to enjoy it at this point. He paid his time. Just like anybody else who commits a crime, he paid his time. He took that all the way to the grave.
Sean, this is the only thing I'm going to say to you, though, is if this was real, Shoeless Joe Jackson died in 1951.
Why now?
This would have been done already.
Because right now the greatest commissioner of the MLB of all time is in charge. Manfred is doing so many things for the MLB to revolutionize the game on the field. Why not do it off the field? It's a little bit much with all these committees, Rob. I'm going to keep it real with you. They letting anybody in nowadays. But he has another 2 years before he's up to vote to even be on the ballot with the Legends, with whatever committee, the Legends Committee or whatever it is.
Right.
So he still has a long way to go, and at the end of the day, Rob, you know and I know y'all voters hold all the power in the world. So if they don't want him in, he ain't in. But he's eligible at this point, so whether it's this generation or the next generation, let the people of Cincinnati, let the Rose family celebrate this man's accomplishments.
I hear you. It's just a strange because
you can't separate what he did. And that's what I hear Sean about the accomplishment. All of his trophies and all of his paraphernalia and all that stuff.
It's all in
the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Okay? There's Pete Rose way out in front of the stadium. I act like he's been whitewashed out and nobody knows who he is. I mean, that is far from the case. of it. Tim in Texas, you're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Tim?
Hey, I think we need to be a little calm and measured about this. You've got to let Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame.
Why is that? Why?
Because if I go to the Hall of Fame and I say, hey, this is where all the greatest baseball players in the world were, and they say, well, kind of. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to not have Pete Rose.
Why have rules, Tim? And as somebody, no, I'm serious. Like seriously, you have rules, and the number one cardinal sin in baseball is gambling because of what? Worrying about the integrity of what I'm watching. Is it real? Is it the WWE, or did this really happen? Once you lose that and people start to do stuff because monetary things are involved, you can damage the sport, Tim. That's why you have to hold it sacred.
I understand that, but and I understand the reasons why not to. But I think when we weigh them, you've got. I mean, it's like the Reds trying to make their Mount Rushmore, and they're like, well, we can't do it because we got Pete Rose can't be up there, so. How can we do a Mount Rushmore?
I think the difference between that, I get your point, is because that would be more geared towards what he did with the team, whereas MLB is a collective, it's a sport, it's a whole. And part of that whole is don't jeopardize the integrity of the game for all of us,
exactly.
the whole league.
Exactly, and that's why some of his teammates are even against him, Tim.
And I still think, Tim, appreciate the call. And you make great points. Last point for me, Robin, I've said it over and over. I just think in 1991, 92, 89, hey, he just been like, you know what? Fell on the sword.
He would have been in the Hall of Fame.
By now, someone would have been like,
no, he would have been in. He would have been in already. Baseball did not want to do this. They didn't.
And he just, in the way he went out.
How do they win by having their all-time hit king out of the Hall of Fame? They don't win.
And he just, all the stuff, and we won't get into all of it, but a lot of stuff he was doing just did not help the cause. I'm going to just leave that at that. If you can read more into about his life.
Yeah, read
a little bit more, y'all. It just didn't help.